Hello, my dear friends. This is Grandpa Billy, and I'm so happy to share a new story with you. If you enjoy what I do, please support me with a like and a subscription. Your support is my greatest inspiration. And now, let's begin. Liza sat by the window, staring at the envelope. It was an ordinary piece of mail, but something about it felt wrong. The handwriting on the front was unfamiliar. Who could it be from? She wondered, as her fingers traced the edges of the letter. Her heart pounded in her chest. This wasn't just any letter. She knew it was a message from someone or something she couldn't ignore. As she opened the letter, her hands trembled. The paper was old, the edges worn as if it had traveled through time. The words were clear but chilling. You have 3 days to change your fate, or you will live a life without meaning. Liza's breath caught in her throat. What could this mean? And who would send her such a thing? A million questions flooded her mind, but only one remained. What is my fate? Liza couldn't shake the feeling that this letter was more than just a cruel joke. She had to find answers. As the days passed, the strange words haunted her, creeping into her thoughts. The thought of losing everything she loved terrified her. What would she do with the time she had left? Should she believe in the letter? The weight of the decision felt unbearable. The next day, Liza met with her best friend, Emma. She couldn't keep this to herself anymore. I have to show you something, Liza said, pulling out the letter. Emma looked at it, her expression unreadable. This isn't real, right? Liza shook her head. I don't know, but I can't ignore it. Emma looked at her, concerned, but also intrigued. What will you do? Liza's decision was made. She couldn't wait any longer to find the truth. She set off on a journey to uncover the secrets behind the letter, unaware that every step she took would lead her deeper into a web of mystery and danger. The clock was ticking. Her fate, whether real or imagined, was now in her hands. Liza arrived at an old bookstore on the outskirts of town. The letter had mentioned a place like this, a forgotten corner of the world where secrets were kept. As she stepped inside, the musty scent of old paper filled the air. The shelves were stacked high with ancient books, some of which looked as though they hadn't been touched in years. What am I looking for? Liza whispered to herself. The store owner, an elderly man with a long white beard, noticed Liza's hesitation. He approached her slowly as if he had been waiting for her. You're here for answers, he said quietly, his voice raspy. The letter brought you here, didn't it? Liza nodded, startled. How did he know? The old man smiled. You have 3 days, but you must be careful. Some truths are dangerous to uncover. Liza couldn't shake the feeling that the man knew more than he was letting on. What do you mean by dangerous truths? She asked, her voice trembling slightly. The man didn't answer right away. Instead, he handed her a book, its cover worn and faded. This will guide you, he said cryptically, but be warned, knowledge comes with a price. Liza opened the book in the dim light of the bookstore. The pages were filled with strange symbols and unfamiliar languages. As she flipped through, one page seemed to glow faintly. She ran her finger along the symbols, feeling a strange pull. The moment she touched the page, the room around her seemed to shift, as if the air itself had changed. Liza felt a wave of dizziness wash over her as the world around her distorted. The room seemed to collapse inward, And then, in an instant, everything went dark. She stumbled, but before she could react, a bright light engulfed her. When she opened her eyes, she was no longer in the bookstore. Instead, she stood in a strange, unfamiliar place, her heart racing. Liza took a step forward, her senses overwhelmed. The air was thick, heavy with an energy she couldn't explain. As she walked, she noticed strange, shadowy figures moving just out of the corner of her vision. They seemed to watch her, but whenever she turned to face them, they vanished. Her pulse quickened. She had to find out what was going on and why she had been brought here. Suddenly, a voice echoed in her mind. "You shouldn't be here," it said, soft but firm. Liza froze, her breath caught in her throat. Was it the letter? Was it speaking to her? She looked around, but saw no one. The voice came again, this time clearer. "If you want to return, you must follow the path." A glowing trail appeared before her, leading into the darkness. Without a choice, Liza stepped forward. Liza followed the glowing trail, each step feeling heavier than the last. The further she walked, the darker the world around her became. The shadows lengthened, and the eerie silence grew deafening. It felt as though the darkness was closing in on her, yet she couldn't stop. The voice, now clearer, urged her onward. "Keep going. The truth lies ahead." At the end of the trail, Liza came upon a small clearing. In the center stood a pedestal, on which rested a glowing orb. She approached it cautiously, her heart pounding in her chest. As she reached out to touch the orb, the ground beneath her feet trembled. A deep voice, echoing from everywhere and nowhere, spoke once more. "This is the final choice. Will you accept your fate?" Liza hesitated. The voice seemed to come from everywhere at once, filling her mind. Was this really her fate? Was it the truth she sought, or was it a trap? Her hand hovered over the orb, the decision weighing on her like a ton of bricks. She thought of everything she had lost, everything she had yet to understand. She took a deep breath and touched the orb. The moment Liza's fingers made contact with the orb, a blinding light filled the clearing. She gasped, her body trembling as the light engulfed her. For a moment, everything went white, and then she was back. The bookstore, the old man, the letter, it was all gone. She found herself standing in her own apartment as if nothing had ever happened. But something inside her had changed. Liza blinked, trying to make sense of what had just occurred. Her heart raced as she scanned the room, searching for any signs of what had happened. The book, everything was gone. Was it a dream? Had it all been a hallucination? But then she spotted it, a small glowing symbol on her wrist. It was the same symbol from the book. The journey wasn't over. It had just begun. Liza stumbled backward, her mind racing. The symbol on her wrist burned with an intensity she couldn't explain. "What does it mean?" she whispered to herself. She couldn't shake the feeling that she had been marked, that whatever had brought her here was still watching, still waiting. And soon she realized she would have to confront it again. Days passed, and Liza couldn't shake the feeling of being watched. She checked her wrist constantly, but the symbol had faded. The unease lingered, like a shadow that refused to leave her side. The world seemed normal, but every time she closed her eyes, she saw the orb, the shadows, the voice. It was all still so vivid. The truth was out there, but so were the dangers. Then, one night, as she sat alone in her apartment, the voice returned. "You have been chosen," it said, its tone soft but unmistakable. Liza's breath caught in her throat as the air around her seemed to grow colder. "The path is open, but remember, once you begin again, there is no turning back." Liza stood up, the weight of the decision heavy on her shoulders. She had to find out the truth. Liza's heart raced as the voice faded. She stood still for a moment, unsure of what to do next. The weight of the decision was suffocating, but deep inside, she knew there was no turning back now. She had been chosen for something bigger, something she couldn't fully understand yet. With a deep breath, she grabbed her coat and headed out the door. The next part of her journey awaited. Liza found herself at the edge of town, standing before an ancient, crumbling gate. It looked like something out of a fairy tale, the stone covered in ivy and moss. The voice returned, this time stronger. "Beyond this gate lies the truth. But beware, for it will challenge everything you believe." Liza hesitated for only a moment before stepping forward. The gate creaked open with an eerie groan. As Liza crossed the threshold, the world around her changed once again. The landscape morphed, shifting into a vast, desolate plain. The sky above was a dull gray, and the wind howled, carrying with it an unsettling silence. She looked around, feeling a chill crawl down her spine. Something was waiting for her, but she couldn't see it yet. The path ahead seemed endless, and every step felt heavier than the last. As she walked, strange shadows flickered at the edge of her vision. They seemed to move, but when she turned to look, they were gone. The silence was suffocating. Liza's breath quickened as she realized she was no longer alone. "What are you?" she whispered, but the only answer was the wind. Then, without warning, a figure appeared in the distance. It was tall, cloaked in shadows, its face hidden. Liza's pulse raced. Was this the entity that had been watching her? The figure moved toward her with a slow, deliberate gait. Liza stood frozen, unable to move. As the figure came closer, it spoke in a voice that seemed to echo from everywhere. "You have come far, but this is where your journey ends." Liza stepped back, her heart racing in her chest. "No," she said, her voice trembling but defiant. "I didn't come this far to turn back now." The figure stopped, tilting its head as if intrigued by her response. "You think you have a choice," it said, its voice cold and mocking. "But fate is not something you can escape." Liza clenched her fists. "I'll find a way." The figure chuckled softly. "You think defiance will save you? You are already a part of this world, Liza. There is no escape." With a sudden, fluid motion, the figure reached out, touching her forehead. Liza gasped, her body going stiff as images flashed before her eyes. She saw countless people, lost souls, trapped in the same void she had entered. Was this her fate? Was she destined to become one of them? Liza collapsed to her knees, the visions overwhelming her. She saw flashes of her past, the letter, the bookstore, the orb, all of it coming together in a terrifying realization. She wasn't just part of this world. She was tied to it. Her fate had already been sealed the moment she touched the orb, but could she still change it? Could she fight against the forces that had brought her here? With a sudden surge of energy, Liza stood up, her eyes burning with newfound resolve. "I won't be a part of this," she declared. The figure laughed again, but this time it sounded less certain. "You can resist," it said, "but the truth always finds a way." Liza didn't respond. Instead, she reached deep inside herself, drawing on the strength she never knew she had. The ground beneath her feet began to tremble. The ground rumbled violently as Liza focused all her energy on the figure. Her hands glowed with an otherworldly light, the air crackling with power. The figure seemed taken aback, its shadowy form wavering as if struggling against her force. "Impossible," it hissed, its voice twisted with a mix of fear and anger. "You should not have this power." But Liza didn't listen. She had no time for their games. With a determined breath, Liza thrust her hands forward. The energy erupted from her like a shockwave, tearing through the air and sending the figure stumbling backward. The light from her hands was blinding, and for a moment the world around her seemed to collapse. When the light faded, Liza found herself standing in a vast, empty space. The figure was gone. Liza looked around, unsure of where she was now. It was as if she had crossed into another dimension, a place beyond the physical world. The silence was overwhelming. She took a step forward, feeling the weight of her choices pressing down on her. Was this the truth she had been searching for, or was it a new beginning, a new path she had to carve for herself? Suddenly, a soft voice echoed from the distance, calling her name. "Liza!" It was faint, but unmistakable. She turned in the direction of the voice, her heart skipping a beat. It wasn't the figure. This voice felt familiar. She started walking toward it, her pace quickening with each step. "Liza, you've come so far. Don't stop now," the voice urged, growing louder with each word. As she followed the voice, the space around her began to change. The darkness faded, replaced by soft, golden light. Liza felt a warmth fill her chest, a strange sense of peace washing over her. She reached out, her fingers grazing the air, and the world around her shimmered. She was no longer alone. The truth, whatever it was within her reach now. The voice spoke again, this time with clarity and certainty. "You were never meant to find the truth outside of yourself, Liza. You were always meant to uncover it from within." Liza's eyes widened as the words sank in. The orb, the gate, the figure, it had all been a test, a journey to help her discover her own strength. She had always held the answers inside her, waiting to be unlocked. As the voice faded, Liza felt a sudden surge of energy within her. It was as if the very core of her being had been reawakened. She closed her eyes, allowing the power to flow through her, and for the first time in her life, she felt truly connected to herself, to the world, to everything. She was no longer just a passenger in her own story. She was the author. Liza opened her eyes, and the world around her shifted once again. The space had changed, now vibrant and alive with colors she had never seen before. Everything felt more vivid, more real. She realized that the world had always been this way. She just hadn't been able to see it until now. "This is where I begin," she whispered to herself, stepping forward with newfound confidence. She walked forward, the path ahead uncertain, but filled with endless possibilities. Every step she took, the world seemed to reshape itself, responding to her presence. She was no longer a mere observer. She was part of the universe, and the universe was part of her. The journey never truly ends, Liza thought, a smile forming on her lips. It just transforms. As she walked, Liza noticed something unusual, a figure standing in the distance watching her. It was familiar, but she couldn't place it. As she approached, the figure came into focus. It was a man with kind eyes and a warm smile. "You've made it," he said softly. "I knew you would." Liza's heart skipped. Was he another part of the journey, or was he something more? Liza stood before him, her mind racing. "Who are you?" she asked, her voice trembling slightly. The man chuckled softly. "I am a reflection of your journey, a part of the truth you've been seeking." He paused, looking into her eyes. "You've always had the answers, Liza. I'm just here to remind you." Liza stared at him, realization dawning. He was her past, her future, her potential. The man stepped closer, his expression softening. "You have been through so much already, but the hardest part is over. The power to shape your destiny is yours now. It always has been." Liza took a deep breath, absorbing his words. She felt the weight of everything that had happened, but now it felt lighter. Her journey wasn't about finding answers. It was about embracing the ones she already had within her. Liza nodded, her eyes glistening with unshed tears. "I'm ready," she whispered, her voice steady. The man smiled, nodding in return. "Good, because now you must go back." Liza's heart clenched. "Back?" she asked, confusion creeping into her voice. The man placed a hand gently on her shoulder. "Yes, back to where it all began. Your journey isn't over. It's just beginning. The world needs you." Liza felt a pull inside her, an urge to return to the world she knew. She had come so far, and yet the world outside still awaited her. The man's words echoed in her mind, reminding her of her true purpose. "But how?" she asked. "How do I go back?" The man smiled once more. "You've always known the way," he said softly, and with that he stepped back, disappearing into the light. The world around her began to shift once again, but this time it wasn't as disorienting. Liza felt her body grow lighter, her senses sharper. The golden light faded, replaced by familiar sights. The bustling streets, the quiet park where she had first discovered the orb. She was back, but everything was different now. She was different. Her journey had changed her, and she would never be the same. Liza walked through the streets, her heart calm, her mind clear. She felt connected to everything and everyone around her. She passed the bookstore where it all began, and a smile tugged at her lips. She knew now that this wasn't just a place. It was a symbol of the endless possibilities that lay ahead. With each step, she felt more grounded in her new reality. She wasn't just an observer anymore. She was the creator. Liza stopped at a bench in the park, sitting down to take a breath. The energy she had felt before still pulsed within her, but now it was quieter, more controlled. As she gazed at the trees swaying gently in the breeze, she realized that her journey was far from over. There were new challenges ahead, new discoveries to be made, but for the first time, she felt ready. A figure approached her from the side, and Liza looked up. It was a man, not the same one from before, but someone familiar. "You look different," he said, a smile playing on his lips. Liza returned the smile, feeling a sense of warmth. "I am," she said softly. "I've changed." The man sat next to her, his presence comforting. "I can see that," he replied, his tone gentle but knowing. "Where do you go from here?" the man asked. Liza looked at him, her heart full of possibility. "Anywhere," she said. "Everywhere." She stood up, taking his hand. "The journey doesn't stop. It just keeps going. I'm not afraid anymore." The man stood with her, and together they walked down the path, the future ahead of them uncertain, but filled with promise. As they walked together, the world around them shifted once again, the path ahead illuminated by a soft, ethereal light. Liza felt the weight of the journey fall away, replaced by a sense of anticipation. The man beside her spoke softly. "You've found your place in this world. But remember, the world is never static. It's always changing, just as you are." Liza nodded, understanding that change wasn't something to fear. It was a part of life. Ahead, a towering structure appeared, its shape both familiar and otherworldly. It was like nothing Liza had ever seen before, a place that seemed to exist both in the real world and in her mind. "Where are we?" she asked. The man smiled again, his eyes filled with warmth. "This is the threshold, the place where possibilities converge. This is where your journey truly begins, Liza." She felt a sense of awe as she stepped toward it. Liza stood at the threshold, her heart racing with excitement and uncertainty. The man beside her placed a hand on her shoulder. "This is your moment," he said. "Step forward and embrace what comes next." With a deep breath, Liza took a step into the unknown, feeling the weight of all that she had learned, all that she had become. This wasn't the end. It was only the beginning. As Liza crossed the threshold, the world around her exploded into light and color. She felt herself being pulled, like a thread being tugged by an invisible force. For a moment, everything went silent, and she felt weightless. Then the world settled, and she found herself in a vast, open space, a space that felt both familiar and entirely new. "Where am I?" she whispered, looking around in awe. The man appeared beside her again, his expression serene. "You're in the place where all paths converge," he said. "This is the realm where choices are made, where the future is shaped. It is up to you now, Liza, to decide what comes next." Liza took a deep breath, feeling the weight of the decision before her. The power was hers to wield. The journey had led her here, but what would she do with it? Liza looked around at the endless possibilities before her. Every path seemed to lead somewhere different, yet they all felt connected. She realized that the power to choose was the greatest gift of all. She didn't need to have all the answers right away. What mattered was that she was free, free to explore, to learn, to grow. The future was hers to create, one step at a time. With a final glance at the man, Liza smiled. "Thank you," she said softly. He nodded, his eyes filled with understanding. "You always had the strength within you. Now it's time to let it guide you." Liza turned, stepping forward into the unknown. The paths ahead were many, but she was no longer afraid. She had found herself, and now she would find her place in the world. As she walked, the world around her began to transform. The paths shifted, merging into one, and the environment became more solid, more real. Liza realized that she was no longer in a dreamlike state. The choices she made had grounded her in the world she had always known. It was her new reality, shaped by her decisions. The journey had not just changed her, it had created something new. Liza walked through the streets once again, but this time everything felt different. She saw the people around her, their lives, their struggles, their joys, and she felt connected to them. She wasn't an outsider anymore. She was a part of the world, and it was a part of her. Her journey had led her here, but it was up to her to keep moving forward. As she continued down the street, Liza's thoughts turned to the future. She didn't know exactly what it held, but she knew one thing. She was ready, ready to face whatever came her way, ready to embrace the unknown. For the first time in her life, she felt truly alive. The possibilities were endless, and she was the one in control. Liza stopped at the edge of the park, looking out over the horizon. The sun was setting, casting a golden light over everything. She closed her eyes, letting the warmth of the moment wash over her. This was her life now, and no matter where the journey took her next, she knew she had the strength to navigate it. She had found her path, and this was only the beginning. With a final deep breath, Liza smiled. The world was hers to shape, and she was ready. The journey had not ended. It had transformed, evolving into something more. And as she took the first step into the future, she knew that no matter what came next, she would face it with the same strength and courage that had carried her this far.